Good evening. I'm Joe Jencks. So glad to be here with you this evening. Give me just a moment to change one thing on my screen. We're all getting used to, in this digital era, the excuse me while I reach for my screen experience. But I'm so glad to be joining you this evening for an old songs concert. I'm joining you from my home studio in Illinois, and I'm sorry that I can't be with you there in person right now, but I really do look forward to a time when all of us can be back together. I'm so grateful to Joy Bennett and to Dan and to all the folks at Old Songs, all the people who volunteer and help out with the board. Such a pleasure to be offering a concert for Old Songs. It's an organization that I've been working with for a lot of years, and big shout out to Andy Spence, the founder of Old Songs, and to Bill Spence in memory for all your years of work. And so glad to be here with you. I'll get on with the music. Thanks so much. Benbridge town in the county down one morning last July. Down a boring green came a sweet Colleen, and she smiled as she passed me by. She looked so sweet from her two bare feet to the sheen of her nut brown hair. Such a coaxing elf, sure I shook myself for to see was I really there. From Bantry Bay up to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, no maid I've seen like the brown Colleen that I met at the county down. As she onward sped, sure I shook my head, and I looked with a feeling rare. And I says I to the passerby, who's a maid with the nut brown hair. He smiled at me and he says he, that's the gem of Ireland's crown. Young Rosie McCann from the banks of the Bann, she's the star of the county down. From Bantry Bay up to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, no maid I've seen like the brown Colleen that I met at the county down. Harvest fair, she'll be surely there, so I'll dress in my Sunday clothes, with my shoes shown right and my hat cocked bright, for a smile from my nut brown rose. No pipe I'll smoke, no horse I'll yoke, till my plough is a rust-colored brown, till the smiling bride by my own fireside sits the star of the county down. From Bantry Bay up to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, no maid I've seen like the brown Colleen that I met at the county down. From Bantry Bay up to Derry Quay, and from Galway to Dublin town, no maid I've seen like the brown Colleen that I met at the county down. No maid I've seen like the brown Colleen that I met at the county down. Well, that was a song that for many of us was one of the first songs that we heard or thought of as an Irish song. And it's certainly one that I heard a lot growing up. For those of you that don't know, I'm a dual U.S. Irish citizen, and you may not associate Jencks as a Celtic name. It's actually a Welsh name. But the half of me that is not Jencks is Kilbride, and my mother's dad's side of the family all come from County Kildare. And I've taken a keen interest in traditional Irish music and Irish parlor songs and folk music from the time I was pretty young. And it's always a pleasure to give an entire concert that's focused on this piece of my own heritage and the repertoire. I thought I'd do a song that I learned off an Irish Rovers album for you next. This is also a good starting point for a lot of young people into Irish music. Always better if it's in tune. Yeah, I mean, a lot of young people probably know, if they haven't heard this, they know, there were green alligators and long-necked geese, the humpty-back camel and the chimpanzees, your cats and rats and elephant, but sure as you're born, you're never gonna see no unicorn. That's, what a lot of people thought was Irish music, and of course, groups like the Chieftains have helped people reframe what Irish music is. But it's important to understand that it spreads across such a wide path. You have groups like Fairport Convention and Steel Eye Span that were taking trad songs, and there's always been this dialogue from both sides of the ocean. There's been music from Ireland that came to the Americas, and music from the Americas that went back to Ireland and went back to other Celtic cultures, and skiffle was a kind of music that was passed back and forth and connected people to different roots traditions. So a lot of people try and draw a clean line in the sand and say, well, this is traditional and this is not. And in my opinion, no such line exists, but this is one of my favorite songs from childhood. And as Irish music can be a bit heavy at times, I thought it'd be nice to start out with a few lighter songs. Way out in London Airport in hangar number 4, a lonely little biplane lived whose name was Evermore. His working days were over, no more would he sail upon his wings above the clouds to fly the Royal Mail. Bye, bye, biplane, once upon a sky plane. Bye, bye, hush-a-bye, lullaby plane. All the mighty jet planes would look down their nose. They'd laugh and say, oh, I'm so glad that I'm not one of those. And Evermore would shake away the teardrops from his wings and dream of days when he again would do heroic things. Bye, bye, biplane, once upon a sky plane. Bye, bye, hush-a-bye, lullaby plane. Then one day the fog and rain had closed the airport down, and all the mighty jet planes were helpless on the ground. When a call came to the airport for a mercy flight, be too late, they could not wait, someone must fly tonight. Bye, bye, plane, once upon a sky plane. Bye, bye, hush-a-bye, lullaby plane. They rolled the little airplane out to runway number 5. Though he looked so small and weak, he knew he would survive. As he rose into the storm, the big planes hung their wings and hoped someday, like Evermore, to do heroic things. Bye, bye, biplane, once upon a sky plane. Bye, bye, hush-a-bye, lullaby plane. Bye, bye, biplane, once upon a sky plane. Bye, bye, hush-a-bye, lullaby plane. And so, my baby bundle, I have spun a tale for you. You must learn there's nothing in this world you cannot do. Do not be discouraged by circumstance or size. Remember Evermore and set your sights upon the skies. Bye, bye, biplane, once upon a sky plane. Bye, bye, hush-a-bye, lullaby plane. Sing it. Bye, bye, biplane, once upon a sky plane. Bye, bye, hush-a-bye, lullaby plane. Bye, bye, hush-a-bye, lullaby plane. Nice. I'm just gonna check the device here in my pocket to make sure that everything is going peachy out in your land, and it is. Otherwise, somebody would have let me know. So, all is well. I'm going to sing a song for you now that I think is as yet unreleased, but it was written by my friend Kat Eggleston. It's called Letter Home 1914, and she just wrote this early in the summer, late last spring. And it's an extraordinary song. And I think if we're going to talk about Irish music, Irish culture, Celtic culture, it's important to understand the ways in which many working class people in Ireland and other Celtic associated countries were conscripted into service. You notice the biplane song talks about flying the Royal Mail, various things like that. You know, there was until 1921 when Ireland truly had independence 100 years ago. There was an interplay between Ireland and the UK that was sometimes beneficial, but often oppressive, and that's the truth. And it's a surefire way to start a fight to even try and talk about all of this. So I'll mostly focus on the music this evening. But it's noteworthy, 1914, because that's the year that my granddad Felix Kilbride left Ireland and came to the United States. And interestingly enough, ended up serving in the armed services here, in lieu of being conscripted and serving for the Royal Army, for the English Army. But yeah, when the Irish Constitution was created, there is a provision in there that says that they shall not declare war on another nation. There are provisions for getting involved in peacekeeping actions and for defensive purposes, but I don't know how many countries have written into their constitution that they will not be the aggressor in a foreign war. And I think that's pretty remarkable. And it's because of so many generations of experiences like the one this song depicts. Letter Home, 1914 by Kat Eggleston. Sorry, I'm missing a capo here. I shall find it. All right. Dear Jenny, I am so sorry I'm only writing today. But since my leaving, I've been so lonely, I've found no words to say. My thoughts are only of Mary, I hope to hear from her soon. I only wish I'd more to bequeath if I should never return. I hear out in the trenches we're drugged with whiskey and rum. If we were ever to come to our senses, we'd never carry a gun. Because of the drink, I hardly remember telling my loved ones goodbye. I only know when I was sober, all I could do was cry. Dear sister, if I should ever come home, lose or win, I swear that I will never go soldiering again. I'll save for a home if Mary will have me and God will give us the chance. But now they say After Christmas, they're sending us to France. Dear sister, may you be well and may all your years be blessed. My Mary is silent. Please, if you see her, then tell her I wish her the best. All that I have, I leave it to you, so keep this letter near. Your brother John, Company D, in his killing Fusiliers. Your dear brother John, Company D, in his killing Fusiliers. If you know any of the songs that I'm singing tonight, please feel free to sing along from wherever you happen to be. The joy of this era, in part, is that you don't have to be shy about singing because you're not going to bother anybody. And, maybe you don't feel like you have the best voice in the world, but Ireland is a country where everybody has a song. One of the joys of traveling there is that you meet so many people who sing and sing well. It's just woven into the fabric of the culture, and you'll get together community gatherings, and somebody will say, Patrick, sing your song, and everybody knows that that's a song that Patrick sings at a gathering. Maureen, would you grace us with a song? And you can guess, which 2 or 3 songs she'll probably start with. It's a really cool thing, and I think that part of Irish culture, more than anything, was embedded into the fabric of my upbringing. That music was a birthright, that music was something that belonged to all of us. And I don't know of any organization that better embodies the idea of music being something that belongs to the community than old songs. And so that feels like a very appropriate connection to make this evening. This is a song that I wrote 25 years ago now, which is hard to believe, but it's a song that I wrote thinking about my granddad, Felix Kilbride, and his reasons for leaving Ireland and what he experienced when he came here, and the idea of wanting to see a lessening of violence in the spirit of, again, the Irish Constitution, declaring that they will not wage war on a foreign nation, that they will not declare war on a sovereign nation. I think that my granddad was seeking a place where there was potentially more peace and prosperity, as were so many immigrants, regardless of when they arrived in the United States or in Canada, North America, and Australia, South Africa, the many places that the diaspora traveled to. My granddad came from Ireland, and in County Kildare he was born in the town. It's high in a little room upstairs, and he lived for 18 years there till the family moved away. They bought passage on a sailing ship bound for America. Oh, the year was 1914, and the war had just begun when he stepped off Ellis Island for to sing sweet freedom song. His new homeland gave him a uniform, handed him a gun, sent him out to fight for the right of the citizen. And I cry out, no more, I will not fight this battle. I will not strike down my sisters and my brothers there again. And I cry out, no more should our greed become the kindle, and our anger strike the match to light the flames of war again. Oh, my father was a soldier too. He did what he thought right when his country called upon him, and said that he must fight. Now they say that things are different, everything has changed. So why do I see children marching off to war again? And I cry out, no more, I will not fight this battle. I will not strike down my sisters and my brothers there again. And I cry out, no more should our greed become the kindle, and our anger strike the match to light the flames of war again. Oh, this battle has been raging nigh on 10,000 years. We've made rivers flow in deserts out of human blood and tears. And I hear the swords are rattling, feel a quiver in my heart. We must put them down and walk away before the raging starts. And I cry out, no more, we will not fight this battle. We will not strike down our sisters and our brothers there again. And we cry out, no more should our greed become the kindle, and our anger strike the match to light the flames of war again. From the fields of Northern Ireland to the deserts of Iraq, from the streets of Sarajevo to the hills of Pakistan, and from North and South Korea to Angola's war-torn shore, people round the world cry out for peace and say we'll fight no more. And we cry out, no more, we will not fight this battle. We will not strike down our sisters and our brothers there again. And we cry out, no more should our greed become the kindle, and our anger strike the match to light the flames of war again. We cry out, no more. Yeah. I'm going to sing a song for you now that was written by a Scottish-Canadian singer-songwriter and dear friend of mine, Maria Dunn. And again, as the diaspora has spread out across the world, the songs and the music have traveled as well, and the styles influence so many other artists. And so this evening, I'll be singing a number of songs written by friends and colleagues who are also deeply influenced by these traditions. This is a song about the miners during the time of Prohibition in Alberta. And the Hillcrest mine disaster, I think 189 or something like that, people killed, miners killed in that disaster. And this is a song that sort of takes place in that time frame and in that same valley. And many, many thanks to Maria Dunn for writing an extraordinary song here. Can you blame the poor miner? From heaven to hell, he passes each day. Can you blame the poor miner for spilling some pay on a rum runner's booty to steal his resolve? Can you blame the poor miner? Can you blame the poor miner? Those temperance ladies are raising the roof till you can't lay your hands on anything proof. But they've never spent a day not seeing the light. Can you blame the poor miner? Can you blame the poor miner for seeking respite? With a pick and a lantern he harvests the coal, then he climbs back out of the cavernous hole. to a constant reminder that mountains will move. Can you blame the poor miner? Can you blame the poor miner? 30 men lost when Bellevue did cave, and Hillcrest's cold blanket of graves. Yet somehow he's hewn it all from his mind. Can you blame the poor miner? Can you blame the poor miner? His need to unwind. A family man, old country raised, a wife and children to feed on his wage. If he stands with the union to better his lot, can you blame the poor miner? Can you blame the poor miner? From hell to heaven he passes each day. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, they say. Meantime, there's comfort and raising a glass. Can you blame the poor miner? Can you blame the poor miner? Can you blame the poor miner? It might be his last. Thanks, Maria. Great song. This next one, I learned from Luca Bloom in person. I lead tours to Ireland every year, save for when there's a pandemic. And even hurricanes we survived. Some of you were with me on that trip where we got stuck in Ireland an extra couple of days because of a hurricane. Rare enough that happens. But yeah, Luca Bloom came and played for one of my tour groups, and we started to get to know each other about 4 years, maybe 5 years ago. God, it could be 6 years ago now. Time moves so fast and so strangely now. But I played a song that I had written about immigration issues as relates to Ireland, and he laid this one on me. And I have loved playing it ever since. It's a beautiful song. It's called The City of Chicago. In the city of Chicago, as the evening shadows fall, there are people dreaming of the hills of Donegal. "1847 was the year it all began. Deadly pains of hunger drove 1 million from the land. They journeyed not for glory, their motive wasn't greed. A voyage of survival across the stormy sea. To the city of Chicago, as the evening shadows fall, there are people dreaming of the hills of Donegal. Some of them knew fortune, some of them knew fame. More of them knew hardship, they died upon the plains. They spread across a nation, they rode the railroad cars. They brought their songs and music to ease their lonely hearts. To the city of Chicago, as the evening shadows fall, there are people dreaming of the hills of Donegal. In the city of Chicago, as the evening shadows fall, there are people dreaming of the hills of Donegal, of the hills of Donegal, of the hills of Donegal. And Luca Bloom has a brand new album out. My friend Jane Murphy just told me about that. So check out his website or look him up online. And great musician, great songwriter. And like my people in Ireland, he too was originally from County Kildare. That was an electric bouzouki, by the way, for those that might not have known what that was. It doesn't look like much of anything recognizable, but it is, in fact, in the mandolin family, as is this instrument, which is an acoustic bouzouki built in the shape of a parlor guitar. And this next song, I will own to you that I have just finally committed to memory this week. I've been meaning to memorize this song for many years, and it's sort of a quintessential Irish song. These words, written by Thomas Moore, the first two verses, in the wake of the 1798 revolution in Ireland, that, like many efforts at revolution and efforts towards self-governance, took a while to succeed, in this case till 1921, but it was an earnest effort, and you hear names like Wolfe Tone and Napper Tandy and some of these folks were involved in the 1798 revolution, and Thomas Moore was a writer and a songwriter, a poet, and so he wrote these first two verses, and sometime in the wake of independence, sometime in the interwar period between World War I and World War II, this third verse was added. Near as I can tell, that's about when this verse came into being. And it talks about a time when Ireland can truly live in peace. And so when you hear references to the minstrel boy and to the harp and to the songs, they really are allegorical for Ireland herself. And the minstrel boy. Minstrel boy to the war has gone. In the ranks of death you will find him. His father's sword he hath girded on, and his wild harp slung behind him. Land of song, cried the warrior bard, though the world betrays thee, one sword at least thy right shall guard, one faithful harp shall praise thee. fell, but the foeman's chain could not bring that proud soul under. The harp he loved never spoke again, for he tore its chords asunder, and said, no chain shall sully thee, thou soul of love and bravery. Thy songs were made for the pure and free, they shall never sound in slavery. Minstrel boy will return one day. When we hear the news, we will cheer it. The minstrel boy will return one day, torn perhaps in body, not in spirit. Then may he play his harp in peace, in a world as heaven intended. For all the bitterness and war must cease, and every battle must be ended. For all the bitterness and war must cease, and every battle be ended. Yeah. Love that. Love that sentiment. Love that piece of music. I'm going to play another song written by Kat Eggleston. This one I recorded in 2017 on my Poets, Philosophers, Workers, and Wanderers album, which many of you possess. If perchance you don't possess it, there is a new Jencks online store where you can acquire it, and we will gladly send it to you. Again, many, many thanks this evening to Old Songs. If you purchased a ticket or made a donation to get this link, thank you very much for your support of Old Songs and for your support of my music. If you managed to have troubles with that and found a link otherwise, please make a donation this evening as you're able. And Anna Ratliff helps me out. Shout out to Anna. She helps me out with almost all of these live streams. And she'll post some links in the sidebar chat. You can also go to joejencks.com, joejencks.com, and find out more information. I just posted an essay there that's sure to be controversial, but talking about the Irish Proclamation of Republic. The Lady Juliana, talking about the women on the first prison ship sent to Australia carrying women as cargo, 1789. Sit down beside me, Elizabeth Rose. I've a story to tell. It's worth the saying, Elizabeth Rose, worth the hearing as well. This was not my first home as well. You may know I was born far away. First set my foot here long ages ago, 70 years to the day. What I recall of the London streets in the year 1789, there was no shelter, little to eat, there was nothing that I could call mine. Apprehended for stealing another girl's clothes, I was sentenced to sail away. Not 12 years old then, Elizabeth Rose, no older than you are today. I remember the day we sailed away on the Lady Juliana. It was the whole world to a young married maid before we made land in Australia. So we set sail for the edge of the world, first ship of the 7th Fleet. A cargo of convicts, all women and girls, dredged from the city streets. Most had been prostitutes, pickpockets, thieves who lived by their wits alone. Though everyone had reason to grieve, none of us wept for our homes. And had we stayed, we all would have paid that same terrible cost. But we landed alive, most did survive, only 5 souls had been lost. I remember the day we sailed away on the Lady Juliana. It was the whole world to a young Mary Wade before we made land in Australia. Judge us in England today as the rabble they swept from their land. But I'll leave it to God on my reckoning day to say where the fault truly stands. No matter how we try to pretend, we are savage just under our skin, as we see very well in the fine-mannered men in the court of the English king. The rule of the sea and the law of the land are different, as everyone knows, and the oldest profession is much in demand, and so we fared better than most. Though it is rare for fortune to smile on those who reach Botany Bay, for Elizabeth Rose, my grandfather's child, life is better today. I remember the day we sailed away on the Lady Juliana. It was the whole world to a young Mary Wade before we made land in Australia. I remember the day we sailed away on the Lady Juliana. It was the whole world to a young Mary Wade before we made land in Australia. It was the whole world to a young Mary Wade the day we made land in Australia. Yeah, great song. Thanks for that. Appreciate that, Kat. Beautiful, beautiful piece of music. I'm going to go to a song by another Canadian songwriter, and you may say, well, how is this tied to the Irish and Celtic diaspora? But it is in part because of the writer, because of James Keelahan, the man that wrote the song, but also because as an immigrant story, so many of the Irish came to various places in the world to see signs, the stereotypical no Irish need apply. They were unwanted in many, many places, and ethnic bigotry toward the Irish was a prominent experience. And I think the stories of that should help us cultivate compassion for each new wave of immigrants and their experiences. And James wrote so eloquently this story that harkens back to World War II. It's called Kiri's Piano. Well, it's sort of like going to the barber and trying to get a perfectly symmetrical haircut. They keep going a little more and a little more, and before you know it, you have a shorter haircut than you intended. Those of you who are players know that over the arc of an evening, it's amazing how an instrument sometimes goes just incrementally by a few cents. Every song just a hair sharp as you chase sonic perfection. Kiri's piano. Of all of Kiri's joys, the thing she loved the best was to play a prized piano when the sun had gone to rest. I used to hear the notes drift down along the silent water as Kiri played the notes and scales for her dear sons and daughters. Mia played piano, but not as good as Kiri. She went in for that long-haired stuff, but she played it pretty. The old piano had a tone that would set my heart to aching. It always sounded sweetest, though, when it was Kiri playing. In December, when the 7th Fleet was turned to smoke and ashes, the order came to confiscate their fishing boats and caches. And Kiri's husband forced to go and work in labor camps. And Kiri left alone to fend and hold the fort as best she can. But the music did not drift as often from up the cove at Kiri's house. And when it did, it sounded haunted, played with worry, played with doubt. For Kiri knew that soon she too would be compelled to leave. And the old upright would stay behind, and Kiri she would grieve. Loaded Kiri on the bus with stoic internees. The crime that they were guilty of was that they were not like me. And if I was ashamed, I didn't know it at the time. They were flotsam on the wave of war. They were no friends of mine. I went up to Kiri's house to tag all their belongings and set them out for auctioneers who'd claim them in the morning. But one piece that I thought I'd keep and hold back for myself was that haunting ivory upright that Kiri played so well. Kiri had not left it there for me to take as plunder. She rolled it down onto the dock and out into the harbor. The old upright in strangers' hands was a thought she could not bear. So she consigned it to the sea to settle the affair. So many years have come and gone since Kiri's relocation. I look back upon that time now with shame and resignation. For Kiri knew what I did not, that if we must be free, then sometimes we must sacrifice to gain our dignity. Yes, Kiri knew what I did not, that if she must be free, then sometimes we must sacrifice to gain our dignity. Kiri's Piano by James Keelahan. As long as I'm on a Canada kick, I'll play one of my songs for you. This is one that I wrote in 2019. I was invited up to Winnipeg. Yay, Winnipeg. I was invited to Winnipeg to play the festival celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Winnipeg General Strike. And the Winnipeg General Strike had a huge impact on the organized labor community throughout North America and in other parts of the world. Organizing tactics went back to Ireland and became part of the War of Independence between 1919 and 1921. But it's noteworthy to me that James Connolly, who was killed in 1916 after the Easter Uprising in May of 1916, May 12th, if I remember correctly. James Connolly had come over, give or take around 1911, 1912, because he wanted to spend a few years studying the organizing tactics of the industrial workers of the world, or the Wobblies. And as a result of that, he brought certain organizing models back to Ireland. And then some of these things, the lessons were passed back and forth as working people tried to organize, particularly in the wake of World War I. There were so many changes that had been promised by governments that had been forestalled by that war. And in the wake of the last pandemic, before the one that we're still in, and in the wake of a world war, the working people of the world were impatient for change. And in Winnipeg, they demonstrated that by taking to the streets in a pretty organized fashion and seizing control of the city for nearly 7 weeks. And they were working toward universal women's suffrage in Canada, toward ending child labor, toward wages and better quality of work conditions. But a lot of the themes that are significant to the working class in any culture were significant in the Winnipeg General Strike. This is called Winnipeg 1919. And rather than try and give you a linear recitation of a 7-week event, when I was writing this song, I grabbed this book that was one that James Connolly would have seen and probably brought a version of back to Ireland with him. It's called Songs to Fan the Flames of Discontent. It's the Little Red Songbook published by the Industrial Workers of the World. In Canada, known as OBU, the One Big Union. And I just decided I would write a song that was in the spirit of those songs that the workers were singing in that time. The old fiddle tunes and the old hymns that had new words set to them. So I invented a new fiddle tune so that I could pilfer it in order to use it to write a song that felt like it belonged in 1919. So there's a long, bizarre musicology narrative for you about how this song came into being. But I had promised Mitch Podolak and Derek Black that I'd write a song in honor of this event. And then I proceeded to sort of forget about that until I was on an Air Canada flight up to Winnipeg the day before the festival. And so, I've always worked well to a deadline, and I wrote this song on an airplane. It was 1919 and all around the world people started marching with their victory flag unfurled. We've shed our blood on battlefields, enslaved in deep dark mines. We rally to the banner, bread and roses, it's our time. Come gather fellow workers and raise your voices strong. We rise today in Winnipeg to sing our victory song. From Europe and to Canada, across the USA, we cry out for justice and for fair and equal pay. All sisters and brothers and all workers here unite. We strive for one big union and defend our common rights. Come gather fellow workers and raise your voices strong. We rise today in Winnipeg to sing our victory song. Halifax and Thunder Bay to the Fraser River shore, Seattle, San Francisco, and Chicago, hear us roar. From Boston on to Dublin town, I heard the people's cries. No more to drudge and idler when the workers organize. Come gather, fellow workers, and raise your voices strong. We rise today in Winnipeg to sing our victory song. Though some of us were born of means and others not a dime, we spend our lives in service to a cause we hold sublime. All laborers and commonwealth, now that our voices say that one way or another we will bring the greater day. Come gather, fellow workers, and raise your voices strong. We rise today in Winnipeg to sing our victory song. To Big Bill Haywood, Mother Jones, and Eugene Debs, along with Emma Goldman and Joe Hill and all the Reds, and all those fellow travelers who beckon to the call. An injury to one of us is an injury to all. Come gather, fellow workers, and raise your voices strong. We rise today in Winnipeg to sing our victory song. May not win our struggle here, but sure as hell we'll try. For the future of our children we are steadfast by and by. It's only when our minds are joined with muscle we can stand and bring to birth a new world, arm in arm and hand in hand. Come gather, fellow workers, and raise your voices strong. We rise today in Winnipeg to sing our victory song. Come gather, fellow workers, and raise your voices strong. We rise today in Winnipeg to sing our victory song. We rise up all around the world and sing our freedom song. This next one is the first song that I wrote in Ireland. I was on tour in 2007 over there with Tom Pigott, rest his soul, good man. And, he was telling me while we were traveling, you have to write a song. You have to write a song while we're on this tour because, John Smith writes a song every year while he's on tour with me. And I said, okay, all right, I'll pick up the gauntlet and run with it, And I worked pretty diligently on this song throughout the tour. And on one of the last nights of the tour, I played this song for Tom, and he started to laugh. And I said, well, don't you like the song? He says, no, it's just a beautiful song, but I was only pulling your leg. John Smith's never written a song here in his life. Which, of course, I know he has, but it was a pretty funny moment that Tom just kind of wanted to goad me into giving him a nugget for the trip. So this was the song. It's called On Erin's Shore. here as a stranger from across the sea I roll. I have come here as a prodigal child who is ready to come home from the hills of Connemara to the McGillicuddy Reeks. Oh, this verdant land she calls to me, ever softly does she speak, and I will give to her the song I sing as so many times before. But the one who holds my truest heart, she lies far from Erin's shore. Oh, they're dancing down in Doolin as the band begin to play. But my thoughts, they are a-wandering to a place so far away, to a woman who is waiting, and I own my soul is torn between this country I would call my own and the one where I was born. And I will give to her the song I sing as so many times before. But the one who holds my truest heart, she lies far from Erin's shore. As I turn toward the Atlantic at the setting of the sun, I would have her here beside me now, that our lives might be as one. All our days would know such beauty, and our sorrow be no more, and our love would find fulfillment here as we stand on Erin's shore. And I will give to her the song I sing as so many times before. But with hearts no longer torn apart, we would stand on Erin's shore. Yes, with hearts no longer torn apart, we would stand on Erin's shore, hand in hand on Erin's shore. Well, the last trip I made to Ireland in person was in the summer of 2019, and I wrote this next song on that trip. It's called When the Moon Rises Over Skibbereen, and I mentioned Skibbereen earlier. One of the places that was most hard hit by the famine and the Great Hunger, as it's called in Ireland. And we went to the tour group that I was leading. We went to the Famine Heritage Center in Skibbereen. And I had been there many times, but it struck me very differently. In 2019, I guess I had just reached critical mass on absorbing enough information about the famine. And I remembered something that my mom had told me when I was a kid, because she told me as a kid. I knew that it was in Ireland referred to as the Great Hunger more frequently than the famine, at least in her generation and my granddad's generation, because a famine suggests that there's no food. And during the time of the potato blight, for every aid ship that came to Ireland laden with food for the Irish, with relief for the ethnic Irish, there were 6 ships, at least, leaving Ireland, laden with food grown in Ireland and bound for other parts of the Commonwealth. And the ethnic Irish were largely forbidden by law to eat that food, forbidden to hunt, forbidden to fish, in many cases, except for commercial purpose. Very low protein diet, often allowed yard birds, from which they would get eggs, but you wouldn't dare eat the yard bird. You would need to hang on to it for the eggs. And, so just a really tough time. And for many reasons, Skibbereen was a place that was extraordinarily hard hit. And the very famous Irish song called Skibbereen was actually written by a newspaper editor in Boston and found its way back to Ireland as one of the great Irish songs. But it was written over here again, this back and forth across the ocean. This, again, I wrote in the summer of 2019, when the moon rises over Skibbereen. By the banks of the island, the abbey story graves, 10,000 aimless lay. Their faces forgotten, their stories remain, to speak of unbearable pain. Their voices rise up as the wind breaks the silence. The trees all bear witness to shame. Blight comes from nature, starvation from politics. Through history it's always the same. When the moon rises over Skibbereen, the most melancholy moon I have seen, do you think she remembers the sorrow she's seen? When the moon rises over Skibbereen. 1845, potatoes first failed, but the people knew hard times before. So they pawned their belongings for food to survive. By late 1846, they were barely alive. Too weak from the fever and hunger and thirst to properly bury their dead. They were left by the roadside or dropped in the dirt, with hardly a prayer even said. When the moon rises over Skibbereen, the most melancholy moon I have seen, do you think she remembers the sorrow she's seen? When the moon rises over Skibbereen. And who takes the blame for a failure so grand? There's plenty of guilt to go round. By time it was known how bad it would get, thousands were laid in the ground, in the ground. Some say the workhouse and others the crown. Some say the landlord's to blame. But by the next world or the new world, 3 million were gone, and the country was forever changed. Now the land and her people not thriving today, but there's a weight on the hills and the glens, and it's left to the living to remember the famine and swear to it never again. When the moon rises over Skibbereen, the most melancholy moon I have seen, do you think she remembers the sorrow she's seen? When the moon rises over Skibbereen, do you think she remembers the sorrow she's seen? When the moon rises over Skibbereen, when the moon rises over Skibbereen. So this song, this next one I wrote after going to Ellis Island and looking up Grandad Felix Kilbride's name in the books there, and looking out across the harbor and seeing the Statue of Liberty. I thought about him as I walked up the stone steps with the grooves in each step where so many footfalls had just worn them away. I walked up into the Great Hall and imagined being there, 100 years earlier, with languages being spoken from all around the world. It must have been like a modern-day Babel. And, the idea for the song sort of began conceptually. But I was down at the Kerrville Folk Festival, and I had just taken delivery on this instrument, the acoustic bouzouki that my buddy Baird Blaine made for me. And it just kind of downloaded from the cosmos as a synergistic compression of many, many thoughts that I'd been having. And so this is a song, I think, that more than anything invites us to remember the lessons of the ancestors, the lessons of the immigrants, to remember the indigenous. While I'm at it, I will note that I'm standing on land that was at one time the tribal home of the Ottawa and the Potawatomi peoples here in northern Illinois. And with that land acknowledgement, recognize that people who were fleeing oppression in one place often inflicted it in others. Look up the story of the San Patricios. If you're not familiar with it, was an Irish regiment that was fighting against Santa Anna, but they saw themselves being commanded by one country to attack villages of working class and, in essence, peasant Catholics in another country. And it felt freakishly familiar to them, and they felt like they were on the wrong side of that conflict, and they switched sides in defense of these small villages in Mexico that were being ransacked. The San Patricios, considered by many traders, by others patriots, but you can certainly understand why they would have felt a certain kinship with these small towns and villages of Catholics that were being told that they no longer got to be a part of Mexico, that they belonged to another country now. And that idea of self-determination and sovereignty would have resonated quite a bit with those Irish soldiers. This song about my own granddad's immigration in 1914 and other branches of my family, but in spirit the invitation to recognize that unless you're indigenous, or unless you were brought here against your will, your ancestors brought here against their will. The rest of us were immigrants from somewhere, and maybe we have an opportunity or an obligation to hold those doors of welcome open for successive generations. Far away and distant lands, the tempers tossed with hopeful hearts and calloused hands, reach toward the light, the torch held high, and cast their gaze upon the lady of the harbor. And she welcomes them with open arms. She says, let my children in. Shine on, shine on, oh you lady of the harbor. And so it was with my own kin. They sailed from Sweden and from France and Ireland, their earthly cares packed in their bags. They cast their gaze upon the lady of the harbor, and she welcomed them with open arms. She said, let my children in. Shine on, shine on, oh you lady of the harbor. Now we're locking down the borders and we're filling up the jails, and we say they don't belong. How conveniently do we forget we've all come to sing the same sweet song. Will the dream survive the strain? Will huddled masses have a chance to learn its sweet refrain? Or will we fall into our fears and turn our backs against the lady of the harbor? And she welcomes them with open arms. She says, let my children in. Shine on, shine on, oh you lady of the harbor. Shine on, shine on, oh you lady of the harbor. Oh you lady of the harbor. Well, I hope you're enjoying the evening. A few more songs to go here tonight, but thanks so much for tuning in this evening to this special presentation for Old Songs. The Old Songs Festival will be happening this year, not in person, but there will be a combination of live broadcast and recorded events, some things you can tune into, I'm guessing, on Folk Music Notebook, as well as directly through the Old Songs website. Please stay tuned to the Old Songs website for more information. Joy is working very hard on pulling together the 2021 Old Songs Festival, and we all hope very much that you will support that and come celebrate music with the broader community that we're used to gathering with every summer. And we look forward to being together again in person as soon as that's possible. If you would like to make contributions to this evening's program, you can do so through the Old Songs website, or you can do so through my links. There are PayPal and Venmo links in the chat stream on the YouTube. And thank you for your support. It's been a trying time for working musicians all over, and I am not immune to that myself, not being independently wealthy, so your support is very much appreciated. This is a song that I wrote several years ago while on tour in Ireland when the person that I just call my second mom was it looked like she was going to leave this incarnation. And it turned out she got a few more years. But this last December, she succumbed to COVID. And I lifted this song back out. I hadn't sung it in a few years, but I lifted this song back out and came up with a very different sort of arrangement of it than I had done earlier. It's called Mother of My Heart. But I realized that while I had two extraordinary parents and was blessed to have a third person in my life who was very much a parent to me for another almost 25 years after my parents passed, that many people have the experience of having other elders that are significant in their lives. And this song can also, as I put on the hat of the immigrant, the song also speaks in some ways to the old country, for whatever that is in your culture. For me, it would be Ireland. But there's a lot of allegorical meaning buried in this song as well. It's called Mother of My Heart. As the sun sets on the water, my thoughts return to you. From nearly halfway around the world, I reach out across the blue. For you have been my guiding light, even when we are apart. Your love illuminates my darkest night, dear mother of my heart. Though I was born unto another, and she was fair and kind, her time it came too quickly, as I'd just come into mine. But you picked up where she left off, and though miles keep us apart, still I can feel your warm embrace, dear mother of my heart. Where she taught me to find my way through many toils and strife. It was you that taught me tenderness and mercy in my life. No words can ever hold the depth, still joined from miles apart. For you will always be to me the mother of my heart. How I wish I could be with you, just to sit and hold your hand. But no, my love and prayers flow forth even from this distant land. You've given me the greatest gift that a mother can impart. I have always known that I am loved, dear mother of my heart. So fare you well, beloved, may divine light lead you home. Your pain is nearly over, and your spirit free to roam. And when the time for your last breath draws near and you depart, hold thoughts of me close to your breast, dear mother of my heart. Hold thoughts of me close to your breast, dear mother of my heart. You will always and forever be the mother of my heart. I have a friend not far from where I live in Rockford, Illinois, James Campbell, who's celebrating his 80th birthday today and this weekend. And so for the Campbell, I would like to sing the song Caledonia, written by Dougie MacLean, and one of my favorites of his and of many people. Happy birthday, Jim. I don't know if you can see the changes that have come over me in these last few days. I've been afraid that I might slip away, so I've been telling old stories, singing songs that make me think about where I come from. And that's the reason why I seem so far away today. Oh, and let me tell you that I love you, and I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me, now I'm going home. For if I should become a stranger, you know it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. Oh, and I have moved and kept on moving. I proved the points that I needed proving. I lost the friends I needed losing, found others on the way. Oh, and I have tried and kept on trying. Stolen dreams, yes, there's no denying. I have traveled hard with conscience flying somewhere in the wind. Oh, and let me tell you that I love you, and I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me, and now I'm going home. For if I should become a stranger, you know it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. Now I'm sitting here before the fire, the empty room and the forest choir. The flames that couldn't get any higher have withered, now they're gone. But I'm steady thinking my way is clear, and I know what I will do tomorrow when the hands have shaken and the kisses flow, and I will disappear. Oh, and let me tell you that I love you, and I think about you all the time. Caledonia, you're calling me, and now I'm going home. For if I should become a stranger, you know it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. For if I should become a stranger, you know it would make me more than sad. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. Caledonia's been everything I've ever had. Well, this was advertised as a 90-minute program, but I'm going to go a few songs over. I figure you folks threw down your money for a good show on a Friday night, and that's exactly what you deserve. So thanks again for tuning in this evening. So glad to be here working with the Old Songs community this evening. Joy Bennett, director of Old Songs, and Dan doing a lot of great work behind the scenes, making it all come together. Looking forward to a virtual Old Songs Festival this June, right at the end of June. Stay tuned to the Old Songs website for that. And let me figure out which instrument I'm after just now. Okay, this one. Yeah, hardware malfunction. Yeah, everything's good. Don't come in, Mom. Everything's fine. It's so much fun to have memories of hanging out with all of you in all the places that we gather, and that keeps me going through this time, and I'm really looking forward to being together again. This is another song that I wrote while on tour in Ireland, and there are several people tuned in this evening who were with me on that tour that would be disappointed if I didn't play this song. It's called In the Shadow of Your Ghost. Met when we were so much younger. You told me of your passion for this land. You said that one day we would go together to a magic place where we'd walk hand in hand. You told me of your time in Galway, at university, of all the joys you knew, studying the cultures of the ancients. But sometimes there are dreams that don't come true. I didn't know you then, and I don't know you now, but somewhere in the middle lived in life somehow. Now I'm standing by the river in the town you love the most, as I walk the streets of Galway in the shadow of your ghost. Feeding chips to seagulls by the harbor, past the Spanish arch you'd sit there on the wall, writing for hours in your journal, noting everything you felt and saw. I didn't know you then, and I don't know you now, but somewhere in the middle lived in life somehow. And I'm standing by the river in the town you love the most, as I walk the streets of Galway in the shadow of your ghost. I lean against the rail as my tears fall in the water. The Friars River carries them away. I stare at my reflection as if there were some answers in the face that ripples staring back my way. I come to the cathedral to sit and light a candle for a love that changed the nature of my life. I wish you very well. I pray that you are happy. Now it's time to take my leave and say goodbye. I didn't know you then, and I don't know you now, but somewhere in the middle we lived in life somehow. And I'm standing by the river in the town you love the most, as I walk the streets of Galway in the shadow of your ghost. Yes, I'm standing by the river in the town you love the most, as I walk the streets of Galway. Walk the streets of Galway, as I walk the streets of Galway in the shadow of your ghost. In the shadow of your ghost. Yes, I walk the streets of Galway in the shadow of your ghost. In the shadow of your ghost. So I had to look pretty hard to find it, but I did find an Irish song with a happy ending, believe it or not. And I thought I'd share that for you. Now, this is a song that I first heard on an old 78 record that my mom had. And the 78 record has disappeared now. I have no idea where it's at, but the song remains. It's called When a Man's in Love. When a man's in love, he feels no cold as I not long ago. As a hero bold, to see my girl I plowed through frost and snow. The moon she gently shed her light along my dreary way, until at length I came to the spot where all my treasure lay. I knocked on my love's window, saying, "Oh dear, are you within?" And softly she undid the latch, so slyly I stepped in. Her hand was warm, her breath was sweet, and her tongue it did gently glide. I stole a kiss, it was no miss, and I asked her to be my bride. Oh, take me to your chamber, love, oh, take me to your bed. Oh, take me to your chamber, love, to rest my weary head. But to take you to my chamber, love, my parents would never agree. So set you there beyond their fire, and I'll sit close by thee. Oh, many's the time I've courted you against your parents' will, but you never said you'd be my bride, so now, my girl, sit still. For tonight I'm going to cross the sea to far off Columbia's shore, and you will never ever see your youthful lover more. Yes, many's the time through frost and snow I've come to visit you, whether tossed about by cold wintry winds or wet by the morning dew. But tonight our courtship's at a close, between you, love, and me. So fare thee well, my own favorite girl, a long farewell to thee. Oh, are you going to leave me now? Oh, pray, what can I do? I will break through every bond of home and come along with you. I know my parents won't forget, but surely they'll forgive. So from this hour I am resolved, along with you I will live. See, I told you it had a happy ending, even when it didn't seem that way at first. I just have one more song here and a hardware malfunction I had to correct. But we'll end also on a happy note. Again, my thanks to Joy and to Old Songs and to the entire Old Songs community, the board of directors, all the volunteers every year. Like, you have never seen so many people just work so hard for the love of the music. If you've never been to the Old Songs Festival, please check out the virtual version coming up here in 2021 in June, and plan on getting there in 2022 in person. It'll be an amazing experience. And again, a shout out to Andy Spence, founder of the Old Songs Festival, and Joy Bennett, current director of the Old Songs Festival. And and to all of you for tuning in, happy St. Patrick's Day. For those of you that are Scottish, forgive me for not knowing the Scottish patron. For those of you that are Welsh, happy St. David's Day when it gets here. Or maybe it's already passed and I spaced it. I normally track that one too. But when my granddad came to this country, to the United States, a lot of what he saw people expressing as Irishness, he referred to as paddywhackery. For him, St. Patrick's Day was a day in which he'd get up a little extra early, go to Mass in the morning, have some rashers, have some bacon and eggs, and go to work and do his business, and come home and have a nice dinner. It was not an occasion for misbehavior, but a point of pride in celebrating the finest of Irish culture. And I'm guessing there was a pint or two in there somewhere on the day, it brings me extraordinary joy to immerse myself as an adult in various aspects of the culture that he grew up in. And I only wish that he were still alive so that I could share some of these things with him. But I get to share them with you instead. And I get to share them with so many people as I travel in Ireland, and I've gotten to connect with cousins over there. And it's just, it's a beautiful thing to have this multicultural, cross-cultural dialogue, and to know that it's been going on for centuries. And so for Old Songs' part in keeping that cultural and musical dialogue alive, thank you very much. The song is called The Coming of the Years, and it's a very hopeful piece that I wrote while traveling through the mountains of County Kiri. And it talks about we will see each other again in the coming of the years. So in that spirit, I look forward to seeing you all again. When I first came here to wander these mountains, my heart was tattered and torn. Ever the rover and all the world over, no land ever felt like a home. But here in the crags and the bogs and the valleys, I've found some measure of ease, where the song of the wind is as sweet to behold as the beautiful rose of Tralee. And it's high up and over the mountains of Kiri that I love so dear. I don't know when I will see you again in the coming of the years. Now I have been blessed to live a good life. I can count my friends by the score, and I have shared meals and moments of kindness. God willing, I'll know many more. But when the burden I've chosen to shoulder is more than I can stand, I find that my thoughts wander back up to Kiri, that rugged and beautiful land. And it's high up and over the mountains of Kiri that I love so dear. I don't know when I will see you again in the coming of the years. When I have traveled all of my journeys and sung all of my songs, when I have given the best that I have and righted most of my wrongs, then take me back to the place that I love. Let me gaze out over the sea. Take me back to the mountains of Kiri, let my spirit run free. And it's high up and over the mountains of Kiri that I love so dear. I don't know when I will see you again in the coming of the years. And it's high up and over the mountains of Kiri that I love so dear. I don't know when I will see you again in the coming of the years. I don't know when, but I'll see you again in the coming of the years. I don't know when, but I'll see you again in the coming of the years. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for a special concert with Old Songs. Check out their website, Old Songs. It's in the links, and it's also in the description of the show, which will stay live for at least a week here, maybe two. We'll leave it up for a while. And also check out joejencks.com, joejencks.com. And I'll leave you with a little bit of a blessing that I wrote a few years ago, just a short one. But thanks so much for being here tonight. It means a lot to me. I wish you peace and every blessing on your journey as you learn to cherish each and every day. May your tears be those of healing. May your laughter bring you joy, and may true love be your companion on the way. I wish you peace and every blessing on your journey as you learn to cherish each and every day. May your tears be those of healing. May your laughter bring you joy, and may true love be your companion on the way. Sing it with me one more time. I wish you peace and every blessing on your journey as you learn to cherish each and every day. May your tears be those of healing. May your laughter bring you joy, and may true love be your companion on the way. May your tears be those of healing. May your laughter bring you joy, and may true love be your companion on the way. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. See you soon.